Hi, I'm DRC Ramming, 9th degree black belt and chief instructor of the Miyamaru Combat Jiu-Jitsu system. I'm shooting this video to answer the question about why police shootings occur and what can be done about it. Now, we've had some horrible incidences happen lately, and it doesn't matter if I shoot this a year from now or 2 years ago, that statement will be accurate, because these incidences continue to happen because people don't really understand what I'm about to teach you. Now, the most important thing to understand is a fear-induced heart rate produces certain reactions to the body. Our resting heart rate is about the stage 1, which is about 60 to 80. That's where most normal people are at. At stage 2 is when you're alert to a situation. For example, if you were a police officer patrolling, you'd be alert for a situation. You're looking around. If you're a civilian who is aware of their surroundings, you're looking around, you're alert. The third area is combative. Something is about to go down or going down. And if you're trained properly, you kind of stay in this range, this 145 to 165 range. You've got enough adrenaline flowing, you've got enough things going on to make you most effective here to actually survive a violent encounter while keeping your sense intact. You start going up to around 165 to 190, in the 180 range, you start to experience sensory loss. That is, you cannot hear commands, you get tunnel vision. This is why, as a civilian, if you're fighting more than one person, sometimes you never even see the other person who harms you. Or if you're a police officer, and often you'll hear of them firing multiple shots and thinking they only fired one shot because they didn't understand, because they are having this kind of sensory loss. We see a prime example of this in untrained youth when the police ask them to put up their hands or give them a clear command to put up their hands, but they don't. So imagine this, you're a kid, like recently happened, you're sitting on a park, a guy rolls up on you, you have a toy gun in your waist, and you say to this officer, first of all, your heart rate jumps from 60 to 80, all the way up into this kind of 220 range, which is a panic range of fight, flight, or freeze. And he's telling you, hey, put your hands up, put your hands up. And your mind says, this can't really be happening to me. Wait, I'll reason it out. This is a toy gun. And you reach for it in your waistband. And then you get killed, because rightly so the officer is going to react. Rightly so the officer is going to feel in fear of his life. So one area of training could be in the actual approach. Could be in the actual approach. Commands have to be repeated very often, and they have to be repeated very strongly to bring the person out of panic back into this mode. Back into this mode where he can understand your commands and instructions. Otherwise, you're going to have a fatal shooting. Now, if you have two individuals in this area here, anything can happen. We've seen some horrible riots happening recently in Ferguson over the slaying of the teenager Michael Brown. It's framed in form of race and all of these type of things. We're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the combative elements of it. There was an initial encounter, there was a struggle at the car, there was a chase, and there was a fatal encounter. Let's look at each of these from the perspective of the officer and of Michael Brown. What they're actually thinking, I don't know, and Michael Brown isn't here to tell his side of the story, and now the grand jury has decided the officer doesn't really have to tell his side of the story. So we won't ever know exactly what happened, but we can make some suppositions. According to the testimony of everybody, there was an initial jaywalk encounter. At this point, the officer was probably at stage 2, and Michael Brown was just walking, so he's probably at stage 1. He might have been a little more apprehensive. He might have been at stage 2, considering that he had just stolen some stuff. But anyway, as soon as he realized that this wasn't about the stolen cigars or whatever he stole, he was certainly in this kind of stage 1 or 2. Then the officer gets a call that there's been a robbery, and he fits the description of the robbery. And so he comes back at him. And now, the officer is definitely in a combative mode if he's properly trained. If he's improperly trained, he would be up here, 4 or 5. But by all evidence, we probably think he's probably in combative mode. The young man, Michael Brown, now he feels that he is being unjustly accused. Imagine, you just pulled up on him and for jaywalking, and now you're double back around and you're giving him additional commands. So when you're being falsely accused or feeling persecuted, you quickly jump up to this high level of stage 5, right up here, or certainly in anger at 4 or 5. All of these are recipes for the disasters, because you can see if the officer is operating at a stage 5 and he's operating at a stage 5, that is a recipe for disaster. Both people are juiced up, there's going to be a fight, and there was a fight. There was a fight. A properly trained officer may have been able to end the fight at that point, or may not. But certainly he would have been in one of these stages at the fight. And then the gun goes off. Now when the gun goes off, there's a chase afterwards. And during the chase, we can assume, having been shot, that Michael Brown panics. And his heart rate goes up to here. And he's in the fight, flight, or freeze. In this case, he flights. He runs. He gets into this flight stage. And the officer gives chase. We would hope that a properly trained officer would be in stage 3. But if he's in 4 or 5, again you can see that there's a recipe for disaster. In stage 4 or 5, he's more likely to shoot, and shots are fired. And then, the fatal encounter. And what happens? Michael Brown, his heart rate is pumping hard, and he's wounded, so he now turns around, and he's enraged, and he attacks. That's one version of the story. He attacks. Another version of the story is that he surrendered. In any case, if the officer is in 3 and he attacks, he's going to kill him. If the officer is in 4 and he attacks, 4, and he attacks, he's going to kill him. And if the officer is in 5 and he attacks, he's going to kill him. So any of these stages would create an attack. Now if he is surrendering, and it doesn't matter his state, and the officer is in state 5, he's going to kill him. We don't know exactly what happens here, but this is a way of looking at the encounter based on heart rate. So how can you apply this to yourself? Well, first of all, if you're a police trainer, you can train people in the approach. This is the best place to de-escalate the situation. To understand that this guy you just finished attacking this guy, or not attacking this guy, stopping this guy, and now you're back again talking to him, and how do you approach him the second time? So there were 2 approaches here, the first time and the second time. You could have made more light of it, or you could have escalated it by being more aggressive. These are areas of training that can be handled. As a civilian, to keep calm, to keep in this combative stage, or to be able to de-escalate yourself through tactical breathing is extremely important. Because if you know one of your triggers are that when you get falsely accused of something, you go berserk, then when you're falsely accused of something, that's when you start to do your tactical breathing to bring yourself down to a level where you can remain in control of the situation and not put your hands on somebody. This is vital information for martial artists. And if you'd like to learn more about how to survive a violent encounter using physical techniques, using psychological techniques, then I would recommend recommend you become a subscriber to my blog, stoplivinginfear.com. You'll also find a number of books and videos on this type of training. Thank you. For a free video on gun disarms, visit streetsmartjujitsu.com.